Hey guys, this is Bruce Marshall from Simpler Trading with the nightly market update for Wednesday, March the 27th. We are winding up the week, short week this week. We have a holiday on Friday, short week this week, and the end of the first quarter. Right now, I'm actually doing this right before the market closes, and I was not expecting too much to go on today. We had a little flush at the open, of course, coming back up now. I'll show you where I kind of think we probably end up going. Let me move this out of the way, but um, I've got the ES here, and as you can see, we've got the overnight action in the light gray here. We had a sell-off yesterday. We've been doing this pattern a good bit lately, actually, and then recovering overnight. This is the overnight session, the light gray, and then the dark, the black is the cash session. So we opened up here, kind of free fall and chop, 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 and we're trying to work our way back up here. This has kind of been the pattern we've been in lately, and let me show you where we'll go start in a small time frame and work our way kind of back out. Let's go to a 5-day here. And as you can see from last week, big rip higher here, and then we've just been kind of working our way back down with a couple little blips along the way. Again, this is ES, not SPX, but let me show you this and put this, maybe this will put it in a little bit more context here. Let's go to a 20-day chart. And I want to show you something here. If you look at this, so this is a 20-day chart of the ES, and I'll just draw some very kind of crude trend lines up here, and as you can see, we're still working our way higher. This thing just doesn't want, of course we've had the back and forth along inside of that channel, and again, this is just a very crude drawing, but you get the point that the trend is still higher here, and I think that will probably continue. Now we've had a lot of back and forth action along the way. This green line is our voodoo tree line, and as you can see, it kind of stopped us a couple times until we went through right there. And again, so far we are, we're just kind of digesting this big move here from the Fed. And it's kind of crazy. The Fed, we knew they weren't going to do anything at the Fed meeting, and yet we still get a big move up because the thought is, the hope is that the Fed is going to give us everything we want and a lot of rate cuts and keep them coming and all that kind of stuff. I'm not so sure of that personally, but we'll see, and I'll tell you what we're going to look for ahead of that. So this is a 1-year time frame again on the S&P. We can do this on the NASDAQ or anything else, but as you can see off the bottom there, that is a voodoo fire line at 4,100. We're at 5,300, basically straight up, very little red in here, a little bit, here and here and here. But that is a long, 1,300 points, basically straight up, in anticipation of we're going to get all these rate cuts and everything's going to be great. Now, the market is very forward-looking, right? I do absolutely think we're going to get rate cuts. I think the market might be a little disappointed. The next Fed meeting, we've got a Fed meeting in May. Let me bring my little calendar over here. We've got Fed meeting May 1st, April 30th, May 1st. Nothing's going to happen there. The next possible meeting is going to be at the June Fed meeting, which is June the 12th, right there. So, and even that is beginning to look maybe not so much like it's going to happen. Again, we'll see. But let's talk about what to look for ahead of that. So the biggest thing right now that the Fed, the biggest thing is the Fed, and the biggest thing the Fed has been looking for is indications of inflation, or inflation coming down, or is inflation going to keep heading higher, and that kind of stuff. So guess what happens on April the 10th? We have got right here, we've got the next CPI data, and CPI is going to tell us is inflation rising or falling, right? On Thursday, that's Wednesday the 10th, Thursday the 11th, we got PPI, very, very, very important to the overall market, and I'll show you why. You might have heard, I've talked about this a lot over the last year or so. Think of it basically as a bell curve. Inflation is rising, 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 rising. We kind of topped out here. Now inflation is starting to fall. However, the last two CPI reports and PPI reports have got a little tick up in inflation right here. So is this going to, is inflation going to keep coming like this, or is the trajectory going to be, not as, drop as sharp and as fast as we hope? And no one knows, right? But again, the next thing to watch for is this week in April, of April 10th and 11th. And then we go out to May. And on May, let's switch my little calendar here, on May the 15th, guess what? Another CPI meeting. So we've got CPI data point right there on the 15th, and then the 16th is the PPI. So actually, you know what? On the PPI is actually on the 14th on May, but anyway, PPI and CPI. So those are going to be the biggest things to watch out for as far as data points that the Fed is going to be really watching to give their indication of which way they are more likely to go on inflation. And all that being said, the market is pricing in a very strong likelihood of a rate cut in June at the June meeting. If any of those inflation numbers come in a little bit hotter than expected, that's going to basically make them want to kick the can down the road. And here's the thing, the Fed, they don't have to do anything. They can wait and let this elevated inflation kind of do their work for them, which I would if I was, Powell or on the Fed board. I would wait as long as I could. And if you recall, they waited as long as they could to raise rates, and they kept kicking the can. They're doing the same thing on cutting rates here. So I don't know why the market has been so wound up here about rate cuts. And a lot of that also, we've got the whole NVIDIA effect, and AI is going to change the world and all that stuff. And that's true. But we've gotten, perhaps we've maybe gotten a little ahead of ourselves here. I don't know. I'm not thinking we're going to black swan and crash and burn, that kind of stuff. But I am thinking that, maybe some caution is warranted here for some type of pullback. The other thing that we do have coming up, let me switch this over here to my Darvas box pattern. And again, beautiful chart. That's a great looking chart. That's the ES. You can say the same thing on the SPX or the NDX. They all look the same. That's a great looking chart. Pretty tight range. But great looking chart. I think we could pull back here to these 34 EMAs or anywhere down around here. That's about 51, say 25, 51.50 on SPX easily, and still be in this uptrend. I think that could happen at any point. So keep that in mind. And again, be watching out for these very important economic data points coming out. We have also in April here, CPI and PPI, that's the two biggest things for me. The week after that is when earnings season kicks off again. So we're going to be watching Apple and Amazon and Nvidia and all of the, all the names that we watch for earnings. And I suspect the earnings will be good. And, we could very easily keep moving up higher here. And that's what I expect. The path of least resistance is higher. The momentum is on our side. Things look great. We just have to, the landmines are going to be inflation data that comes in hot. And kind of makes the Fed tap the brakes a little more and maybe spooks the market. So just be aware of that. I don't have anything, not black swan-ish or anything like that to think we're going to roll over and die here. The momentum is clearly on the upside, so we'll trade it that way until things change. But in the meantime, watch carefully as these data points come out. Watch CPI, watch PPI. We actually have payrolls coming in next Friday. Watch that, and watch the data points. Of course, watch earnings as they come out, and that'll give you a lot of clues as far as which way we are likely to be going. So with that, let me wind it up. Hope that's helpful. That's a big, broad market overview, and I'm using the S&P and the ES, as talking points. We could use the diamonds or the Dow or the NASDAQ. They all are in the same pattern, same trend. They all look the same. So we continue to play these things to the upside with, managed risk, tight stops, that type thing. So hope that helps, and I will see you guys at the next update. Thanks.
Without simpler trading, I could not have financial independence.
This is one of the best investments I ever made in my life.
It's helping me find consistency.
It's one of the things that won me.